Hey, what's up YouTube? We're here today. We're going to change out the spark plugs on my 2011 Nissan Altima. This is the 2.5 SL model. It comes with the non-hybrid gas 2.5 cylinder inline 4 cylinder with the CVT on it. We're going to change out the spark plugs and get them swapped out. I have a little bit of a rough idle. I have my thoughts on what it could be, but this is one thing I would like to do is just as regular maintenance. I have about 84,000 miles on it, and I have changed them out several years ago before once. I know they claim these plugs are supposedly don't need to be serviced for 105,000 miles, but I've actually run into issues before with these plugs in my brother's Nissan where it's 60-some thousand. He actually had problems with a few plugs that were, become fouled and also actually started misfiring. Because of the rough idle and being that I've already checked a lot of other things over, this is just going to be another one of my process elimination items, and it's a good maintenance item. So plus it'll make me feel good, especially when I'm traveling, out of town. We frequently use this car to go on long trips on vacation down south. We're in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, so traveling to Myrtle Beach, it'd be nice to know that I have fresh plugs in here. So before we get too involved, I'm just going to show you real fast some of the stuff you're going to need. So these are the NGK Iridiums. That's the part number. I'll try to link that down in the description. It's the 9029 is what it comes up at on an Advanced Auto, as well as the other websites such as Advanced Auto and Pep Boys and Napa and AutoZone. So that's a good number to look it up. I got some of the Permatex Dielectric Grease. This is just to go in and make sure that the boots are lubricated and to prevent any kind of corrosion buildup. You're going to need one of these, which is a 5 Allen. I believe that's considered a 5mm Allen, I assume. This is for taking off the decorative engine cover. Got this magnetic dish to hold all my screws, bolts, and bolt plugs. A couple socket wrenches here. 14mm socket for the actual plug with a long extension. Magnet with the telescoping magnet. This is good for getting down there and reaching the plugs, since I do not have the proper spark plug socket, which comes with a little rubber boot. Kind of holds the plug. Just some Q-tips just in case I need to clean out the boots at all. Mass airflow sensor is not super aggressive, so I have that for just kind of wetting a Q-tip and cleaning any of the old dried up grease that could be in the boots. And just a little penetrating lubricant. This is at your own risk. This is kind of the way I do it. I usually just put a little on the threads of the new plug. Just helps you get them guided in there and makes them screw into the engine head nice and smooth. Some paper towels. You can get some rubber gloves if you want. I'm going to use this a little battery impact guy here just to help zip out some of the bolts. I'm not going to use that on the plugs. Just want to let you know up front. It's just for getting the coils and stuff off. You'll also need a 10mm socket, which I haven't brought out yet, for undoing the coil pack. So let me get you set up here on tripod, and without further ado, we'll get cracking into this. Also, I'd like to mention, a lot of people would probably chime in and say it's a good idea to disconnect the battery. So this is the driver's side headlight here, and this is your negative battery terminal up front. Your red one is going to be covered with one of these red positive symboled covers on them. I'm not going to do so, but if it makes you feel good, go ahead and do that. It's probably a good idea to do that, but I'm not going to, because I don't think it's really necessary to do so. Alright, we're going to go ahead and get started. I got my 5 Allen. We're going to zip off those little fasteners that hold the decorative cover on. Hopefully, the sun here, the way the sun's shining, it doesn't shadow you out too much, and this makes a good video. I'll still upload it anyway, even if you just listen to what I'm saying and can't see. You should have a pretty good idea what's going on. So there's actually going to be 3 on here, and I'll show you here. Just loosen them. There's going to be one here, and one here for the fasteners. You have to be careful and make sure you're all the way seated in there, because sometimes, just like, I don't know if you heard that, I kind of rounded the head off on this. I do have extras, so you want to make sure that you're pushing that all the way down in there and not do what I just did. So we'll go ahead and pull them out, put them in a decorative dish. I'm going to sit the one that I kind of rounded. It's actually okay. It's not too bad. I'm going to sit that one aside because, like I said, I pulled some spares at the junkyard. This cover just lifts straight up. I'm going to sit that aside where you're not going to step on it, break it. And now what this is going to do is this is going to expose your coil packs. This is what we're in here for, to get to the plugs. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know if that's the correct cylinder orientation, so I'm just simply going 1, 2, 3, 4 because there's 4 here. I would say if you're curious to know what your firing order is, you'll want to look that up online. I'm sure you can find out which is which. Now, you always want to inspect right on here on these little wires. Sometimes they get a little brittle and can actually break going into the coil connectors. Look for any exposed wires. Make sure you don't see any corrosion or any pus sticking out of them, because that might indicate you may have to solder in a new connector. Another kind of a common issue on these 2.5 Nissan engines. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take out these 10mm fasteners that hold the coils in. And then what I found to be effective is these little clips. You have to push these little tabs down. And while you're pushing, you have to use your other hand to pull back. I found that it's easy if you get the coil popped up out a little bit, out of its bore hole. That gives you the ability to get this connector completely off. So we'll go ahead and get you set up for that. Okay, I just kind of usually just work left to right. There's no real way that you're supposed to do this. So I'm going to switch over to my 10mm socket here. We're just going to go ahead and take these out. Sit them aside. Apologize if you're picking up all that noise in the background. My dad sells golf clubs as a hobby. Quite frankly, it's annoying because he's always got somebody here to buy golf clubs. And conveniently all morning long, when I was getting ready to do this, he wasn't home. As soon as I start making a video, he brings half of the tri-state area over to look at golf clubs. So I'm going to push this tab down. I'm going to lift up. And as I'm lifting, you can see it gave me the ability to pull this connector off. So what I'm going to do is, like I said, I'm going to clean up. It actually doesn't look bad. You want to inspect, too. You want to inspect these boots. Look for any traces of arcing or any cracks anywhere in these boots here. It's very important to do. Because that can create a misfire. These coils actually look really good, so I'm just going to sit that aside for an uno momento here.
Hey, you got my number, so as soon as you get it back, just through the phone. He's going to give you a call tomorrow.
I think my dad probably was a car salesman in an earlier life. I'm not sure. So I'm just going to go, and I'm just going to take a little Q-tip, and you don't want to get any of the gunk down in here. I'm just kind of cleaning the head off a little bit to get any excessive grease off there. And that looks good. Okay, and I'm going to set the coil up here out of the wear hood so it doesn't get broke. It's always a good idea also to inspect the spark plug tubes too, because if oil gets down inside there around the plug, what can happen is you can run into a situation where A, you'll start consuming oil, and B, I probably could see it at that angle there down in there, B, if you go cracking that plug out of there, you're going to let all that oil in there, and you take the risk of actually bending a valve or something of that nature by letting the oil rush down, and you can actually hydrolock the engine. So you got to be real careful with that. So now I'm going to take my socket wrench and my 14mm here and move some stuff out of the road. Move my cleaner over here, pardon my reach. And we're going to go down there. We're going to try to get down on that plug nice and even there. Make sure we're on there securely, because I don't have the correct spark plug sockets. You got to be real careful not to crack the plug, because there's no rubber boot in there to hold you nice and steady. So we're just going to go ahead and crack these loose. Shouldn't be too bad. You don't want to take these out with power tools. So once you start cracking that loose here, we'll get it to it feels like it's not threaded anymore. Alright, and then we'll set our socket aside where it's not going to hopefully fall anywhere. Grab my telescopic magnet, go down there and grab the plug. And as you can tell, these plugs actually look really good still. They do have a funny smell to them, I ain't gonna lie. I'm not sure what that is, but these plugs actually look fantastic still. But I already paid for them. I already have them. I'm just going to replace them and keep them as backups. But like I said, it's probably overkill. But take this as, you know, your gain, my loss, you know, showing you how to do this. I'm going to sit the plugs aside. I like to set them in the order I took them out, just so I can examine them when I'm done. I'm going to get us a new plug out. Now these plugs are typically, here's a new plug for you. These plugs are typically pre-gapped, so it keeps you from having to mess with them. I check the gap anyway just to make sure. I'll try to include that spec in the description. I'm going to go down there with my magnet. I'm going to drop that plug down in there. Sometimes it can be a little difficult to get it started because your magnet's going to want to take you all over the place. Actually, you might need to just kind of do a light drop. The magnet putting it in didn't seem to work, so I just kind of lightly just dropped the plug in there, and then always start it by hand. Now there is a foot-pound torque. I want to say it's 14, but I will look that up and also put that in the specifications on what the pound-feet of torque is for these. I kind of use my mind, not my muscle here. Okay. Now that we did that, we can go ahead and prep the coil to put it back in. Got my Permatex grease here, dielectric grease that I'm using. And I'm just going to take the coil here and a clean Q-tip. I'm just going to put just a little bit here on the Q-tip. Like so. This might be a little ridiculous, but you don't really want to get it on the actual head of the plug because it actually is non-conductive. And you just kind of work your way around like that and make sure it's got some. Also helps for reinstallation and for removal. Okay. So now that I've did that, I'm going to put my cap back on here. I have very carefully, like I said, I have definitely inspected the coil over, made sure it looks good. I don't see any cracks or any white traces of arcing, so, and wasn't having a misfire in the first place. So we're going to go ahead and drop that back down in there here, and just going to check around here. It does look like my spark plug well tubes are officially starting to leak, which is kind of unfortunate because I'll be frank with you, I didn't think that I checked them long ago and they look fine. So that means this car is going to need a new valve cover because I'm pretty certain that the spark plug well tubes, the seals, that O-rings that go around it, are part of the actual valve cover. I don't believe they're separate, so we're going to go ahead and just get that in here anyway for now, and then I will look into that. And just kind of push it down. Then you got to line up in the back where your fastener goes. I'm just going to start that by hand, but I will torque that down later. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and move to the next one. I'm going to lift it up a little bit. I'm going to pull back on this connector. Take that out. Actually, a little debris in there. I don't see any oil in there. It's good. But like I said, I do see that we are starting to develop an issue with oil gathering around there. So it is something that is definitely important to note when you're doing this. Change my socket wrench over here to loosen. Once again, like I said, always look in there for oil and any debris. Oh boy, that's a tight plug. There we go. Obviously, you always want to do this on a cold engine. So we'll set that aside again. Grab my magnet, go down here and grab that plug, pull it out. It looks good too. Like I said, these plugs don't have very many miles on them, but just because, like I said, it was running a little rough, so I figured, you know what, I'm just going to play it safe and go ahead and replace them anyway. Set them aside because, like I said, they're still in pretty darn good shape. Once again, we're going to check your boot. Make sure there's no major issues going on. I don't see anything. I'm going to wipe it off a little bit with a rag. And then, just like before, I'm going to go ahead and apply just, I've got to take the cap off here. Take just a little bit of the dielectric grease here. Put it in the edge there. And use the clean end of my Q-tip here, and I'm just going to kind of swish it around in there. You don't want to get it on, like I said, any of the contacts here. You don't want to use a lot either. You just need enough to do what you need to do. Get a new plug. And I know this is not the recommended way to do it. I'm going to easily drop that down in there very gently. Not too bad. There's not much room for it to really hit the hit anything that's going to bend the electrode so on it, which is good. There's not that much room. The hole's pretty narrow, so I'm going to go down in here. But I will be ordering a valve cover for this guy. Get that screwed in. And by the way, get the Nissan one. Do not get a dormant one. The dormant ones actually have some known issues. About right. Don't want to over tighten. You just want to do just enough to get it tight, but you don't want it coming out either. Like I said, I'll try to put this torque specs in there. Now on this coil, I do see a little bit of burn marks there, and I think that is from the oil that is starting to come up through that valve cover seals. It's starting to burn the coils a little bit, but no evidence of arcing, so it hasn't seemed to penetrate the boot yet. But another reason why you want to definitely get these done is because when this starts leaking, when these start leaking like that, they'll ruin your plugs, they'll ruin your coils, burn oil obviously, and well, you know, that's not what you want. So this one here is especially hard. You gotta, there we go, pull that out. Inspect this. See any forms of arcing. Clean this one up here. Get a clean Q-tip here. Pretty warm today. It's all the way up to I think it feels like it's going to be in the 70s today, mid 70s, possibly even get up close to 80. Put a little grease on there again. Okay, put a little round in there. Just helps make a nice weather seal. Okay, and we'll get our new plug, our old plug out. So, getting ahead of myself, guys. I didn't take the old plug out yet. Woo! Start over again. Let me get on there. Geez, those are in there. There we go. Okay, that's loose. Let's that somewhere. Grab my magnet again. Pull that plug out. Plug looks really good too. There's a little carbon on it, but nothing major. Electrodes look fine. So definitely put them in a safe place. Double check down in there. I don't see any oil or anything going on down there, so that's good. And this seal actually looks okay, but unfortunately, well, the spark plug valve cover seal that is, but still gonna replace it anyway. Gotta just give it a nice. I go down as far as I can, and then kind of drop it down in at an angle. Get your socket started nice and straight by hand. Kind of repetitious. I probably could have just stopped at one, but I figured, well, I'm already recording. We'll just keep going. Get our socket wrench on here again. You want to make sure you stay nice and straight on here so you don't bend these plugs, you know, obviously, or crack the porcelain on them. There. Alright, pull out straight. Okay. And we'll go ahead and get this coil put in here real quick. This one here, we'll set it down like this, and as we're setting it down, we'll get that clicked in, because I remember this one was hard to get that off. Make sure it's pushed down all the way, and we'll go ahead and move to the next one. Like I said, pretty easy job. Not difficult. Lift that out. Go ahead and check that coil. Don't see any kind of arcing or anything. Nothing noticeable. Yeah, it looks good, actually. No cracks, no coil or anything, so good coil. Like I said, wasn't having a problem in the first place. Look down in there, make sure there's no oil buildup down there. So it seems like these two over here are the worst for the cover or the seals having oil coming out of them. So I'll have to, like I said, order that valve cover for this, which looks like it's kind of a pain in the derriere. Appears, what I'm seeing here, it looks like probably have to take, from the looks of it, the whole engine mount and everything off to do it, because this engine mount bracket goes around it. Kind of disappointing, because I just checked this a few weeks ago to make sure when the oil, I started getting a slight oil consumption, I noticed, and that's why I actually checked these for that. Definitely an odd smell that's coming out of this combustion chamber, I could tell you that. Can't quite make out what I'm smelling. It's a very odd smell, though. Typically, I just smell your classic, you know, gas or combustion chamber. You know, this actually smells odd. So there's that plug there. Once again, perfect condition. Completely unnecessary, apparently. That's alright. I'll make a video for you guys. I'm sure somebody out there will appreciate it. They are a little pricey, though. I do recommend getting the correct plugs, the factory plugs that these come with, which are the NGK and Iridium's laser ones. They're $20 at Advanced. I paid, I had a $5 off perk that from just all the crap that I buy there. And then in addition to that, I also had used a promo code, got 25% off. I think after local taxes, like 59 bucks, I think, for everything. So, okay. I am happy with that. I'm going to set my tools to the side so they don't fall. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and clean this coil end up. So once again, I'm just coming in here and cleaning out any of this lunk that could be in there, old dielectric grease. I'll put some fresh on it. Sorry, I keep taking it out of frame here. Just kind of work around in there, just make sure it has a nice coating. Okay. This coil looks good too. Go ahead and pop that in there. Push that down in there. So if this was, like I said, a customer's vehicle, I would recommend the valve cover replacement. 90% positive you can't get the seals for the spark plug well tubes separate to install into the cover. I'll be frank with you. You know, if I knew Frank, I would suggest just going ahead and replacing the valve cover anyway, because you've got to take it off to do the seals and the gaskets on it anyhow, so you're going to go through all that trouble. It would only just make sense, just replace it, you know. Get a Nissan one too. Don't play games with the aftermarket garbage just because they have been known to have. There was originally, and one of them, I don't remember what year it was, but there was a revision on these. So okay, get my 10mm here, and we'll get that put back down as fasteners. And you know, guys, it's kind of funny. Guess what has disappeared on me? My 10mm socket. Would you not know it? No, it did not disappear. It is still was hanging out on my impact. So I should put an extension on these, but I don't feel like looking for one. You don't want to over tighten these and crack them, because they just go into a plastic case or cover. Geez, real with this socket wrench doesn't seem to work very well. The Craftsman's too. I'm not sure even where it came from, frankly. There's Frank again. Alright. So that's done. I'm going to clean up my junk, put my cap back on my dielectric grease, because it was a little bit on the more expensive side. Set everything aside here, make sure there's nothing here that's going to rattle away on me. Now before we put the engine cover back on, I'm going to go ahead and fire this up and make sure everything sounds good. Always just double check everything's good. All the wires are down out of the way, they're not going to chafe on the cover when we push it on. Everything's good there. Go ahead and climb in. Hopefully you don't go flying away when I start it. Alright. Sounds really good. Nice and smooth. I'll let it warm up a couple minutes. Once I know it's warmed up, that little lope you heard, they always do that. I don't know why the 2.5s do that when they're cold. I'm going to go ahead and put that decorative cover back on. It's down here out of the way. The mounting points are here, or yeah, right there. There's one mounting point here. Obviously shut it off and you just didn't hurt your hand. There's the other one. And there's 5mm Allen. I got one I'm going to probably replace. But yeah, that's pretty much it. When you're in here, it's not a bad idea to pick up a PVC valve. They're pretty cheap. I use a 24mm socket, I believe, to get that out. So you just get a nice, you know, hose clamp or socket, and then start over. Pliers. Squeeze this, take off the little hose. Check the hose for any breaks or cuts. This is always want to check all these hoses because they can get brittle and dry rotted. And you could, this just screws into plastic, so be very gentle doing that. You know, check your belts, check your fluids, anything else that you think is important. If you had your battery disconnected, go ahead and do that. But sounds really good. So, you know, which it should. I mean, to be honest with you, I've meticulously cared for this engine. It's always had, you know, the CVT fluid I've changed. I've made videos on that. It's had oil changes, more than you probably have to. You know, plugs, air filters has never been dirty in this car. Coolant's been changed. I changed the power steering fluid, which you can use the Dexron 6, I want to say. Transmission fluid. The GM Dexron 6, I believe, is actually a substitute. So if you want to use like a squeezy thing, a suction device of some kind, apparatus to get the fluid out of there, and fill it up with the Dexron 6, I believe is the manual calls for it, if you don't want to get the Nissan stuff, and drive around for a week and then suck it out and fill it up again. Just do that maybe 3 or 4 times and that'll get most of the fluid out. So that's it, guys. So like I said, just some of the stuff I use. You know, we had your Iridium plugs. That's your part number on them there, which I'll try to remember to link that in the description. I have a gapper. You really shouldn't need this, but I just like to check the gaps anyway. You know, we have your 5mm Allen, nice socket set here. Your 14mm deep socket with a long extension here. I want to say this looks like almost looks like a 10-inch, I would say, extension. If I were to put a number on it that I used here to get down there on the plug. If you can get the special spark plug socket, do that, because it'll have the rubber garment in it to keep from, you know, getting crooked on the plug and cracking the porcelain. Your 10mm socket for taking off the coil pack fasteners. Q-tips are optional, it's just for cleaning the boot out. I like to put a little dielectric grease in there, which, like I said, I use the Permatex stuff here. This is what I used here. And then the telescoping magnet to get down in there and get the plugs out. And that's pretty much it, guys. That's, you know, put your cover back on, tighten them down, don't over tighten them. And that's how you do the plugs on your 2011 Nissan Altima. Thanks for watching. Please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe.